Hello, everyone, and welcome to Strange Coordinates, a show where we use brands as compass points to lead us to fascinating stories. I'm Aydan Sarakaya.
And I'm Topher Burns. Along with our partner Robert, Aydan and I lead an agency called Territorial that helps brands find their place in the world, but we are not the only people who love brands. On Stranger Coordinates, we focus on a specific theme and we bring a traveling companion along with us on the journey.
Today, we're diving into the world of marketing to parents, and we'll be learning about it from the perspective of creators and influencers.
And joining us today on that journey is someone who some of you in the Strange Coordinates world might already recognize. He is an award-winning senior social and influencer strategist with 15 years experience across agency leadership and the creator economy, including 5 years operating as a popular parenting creator with 700K plus followers, 200 plus brand partnerships, and a firsthand understanding of how influence actually works from the inside out. His journey has taken him from the US to Australia, but he's joining us here today on Strange Coordinates. Please, everybody, welcome Sean Szeps.
Yay! Yay! Yay!
Usually we have to do the applause, but I'm glad,
No.
Yeah.
I come with my own community.
And in many ways, not just by providing your own applause, we had such a fantastic time recording together on our Huggies episode. And
Yes.
It really felt to us like there was a lot of kind of texture in your background and expertise in your background that we were excited to dig more into and benefit from all that expertise. So we're gonna kind of like talk through a wide number of those types of worlds, but I thought I'd dive us in right away. We'll talk about the advertising stuff in a little bit, and it's going to be material for us, but I'm curious, as we talk about the world of you being a creator, specifically in the parenting world, what's something that surprised you when you moved into the parenting industry as a creator?
It's interesting because I have worked across brands that marketed specifically to mothers, but parents at large for my entire career. And so I went into the creator role with very low expectations because I felt like I completely understood everything. And there wasn't going to be anything that shocked me. I was the one writing the creative briefs, so I knew what I was going to be receiving. I was the one who understood and was working out with my colleagues how much to pay them. And so I think I understood what the money was going to look like. I think what surprised me was that my children were almost more important to the brand partners than me myself. There were so many briefs that came across my desk that said, if your kids can't be in it, we don't want you. If your kids can't say this line, we can't work with you. This needs to be a family partnership, and your kids need to be speaking to camera. And I don't know that I had ever thought about the creator economy, but specifically working with parents, as it being a tool to market to children specifically, or to parents with that dangling, glittery, special thing of like, here's an actual child telling us that the product is good.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that definitely surprised me, especially when I made the decision to not show my kids online, and all of a sudden I was losing out on opportunities.
What made you make that decision when you were like, I don't want to show my kids online anymore?
I think it's two things that collided at almost the exact same time. The zeitgeist and the public consciousness. There were a lot of conversations about the fact that, wow, our children don't have a choice. They're having this digital footprint that is going to exist for them in totality by the time that they're 16 or 13. And are they going to feel comfortable with that? Are they going to feel manipulated into that? Obviously, as a creator, you're also financially benefiting from them being involved in the content. And we were giving them money that has gone into an account. So it was like me feeling uncomfortable with the fact that I didn't really know how they were going to feel. They were so young, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we made the decision to pull them when they were 4. But then there was this other thing that is obviously less sexy as a headline, which is I didn't like working with them. I found it really, really, really stressful. And I'm sure you two can relate. When I am working, like, sure, being a creator is fun, but I'm working. Like,
Right.
when I'm on set, those are my clients and I'm trying to impress them. It's a job interview. I want the repeat customer. And when your children are falling, crying, screaming, vomiting, pooping, not saying the line, not saying the line, not saying the line, you're like, this is my client. Dada is at work.
Yeah.
And the moment you start to have a little frustration with your children because of work, it's an opportunity to really look at yourself in the mirror and go, what are we doing here? So it felt like an easy decision.
It's interesting because I think from a cultural perspective, the blame about children having online lives that they may or may not have agreed to feels like it gets put at the creator. And certainly as a parent, the buck stops with you, right? Like you're the one who needs it. But I really don't think that I ever thought about how much that may be driven by brands that are kind of like, if it's not coming from a kid, we don't want it. Is this, does that, it changes for me kind of like how I think about companies that are represented in that way.
Oh, I love that observation. I'm going to tell you just like a financial difference. It's not how much I made, but it's a specific brief that came across my desk. And it specifically said, we're looking for a parenting creator. Ideally, you feature your kids. You can get paid $15,000 for this reel. And if you use your kids, you can get, I think it was 41. It was like such a massive, sizable, huge shift. If you think about it positively, romantically, with empathy, you can imagine that they're saying you need to pay your kids. Like, this is money for all of their hard work. Or you can think about the fact that they're going to be turning this into an ad. They're going to be capitalizing on your children speaking. There's undeniably discomfort with having kids reading lines and speaking about things they might not even fully believe because their parent is saying, and then you will say. But we're talking about missed financial opportunity that feeds my children and pays my mortgage. Right. So you can imagine there are creators who don't have 5 years of working without their children, who don't have practice with values yet, because it's a muscle, right, that we learn when we say yes and no to things. And they have financial needs. So all of a sudden, they're looking at that brief and going, okay, kids, get your acting shoes on.
Right. All right, little Lindsay.
It actually, it's so interesting. It made me think of the Real Housewife. There's like a Real Housewives of New York from like the recent reboot, who was talking about on the show how she was going from being a parenting influencer into making her Instagram just for her. And I wonder if that's part of it, that like because of her exposure on Real Housewives, she probably finally was able to do a lot of like the brand deals just for herself versus like previously it was probably all attached to her kids. So maybe there just like wasn't the market for her as an individual until she had that, other content outlet. That's really so interesting. I never would have thought of that.
I have a consultancy business that I run on the side, and I meet with a ton of people who want to be content creators. And I would say 30% of the people I work with are creators who are already established in the parenting space, who are very interested in copying the model of how do you drop your children in an industry that is very interested in your children. What does it look like? Am I going to lose businesses? Am I going to lose brands? And the question that comes up a lot are you actually interesting without them?
Right. Like, what is your thing? What makes you,
I'm lucky. I'm a gay dad. So I'm already a dad, which niches me down. So there's not a ton of competition. And then you get even nicher with my sexuality. And so I'm getting briefs because of that. Okay, we already have hundreds of thousands of moms to choose from. and we have a couple dozen of dads to choose from. So if you're a mom and you've been showing your kids your entire life, I completely understand that there's this huge hurdle of like, who am I without them? And if I'm talking about them, is it as interesting? What makes me different?
Yeah.
And it goes back to Topher's point. If the briefs are coming across your desk and they're saying, hey, if you use your kids, hey, we want to see your kids, hey, we'd love to see your kids. You know, there's a lot of internal work that has to be done. And when bills need to be paid, you know, that's an undeniable challenge.
Totally.
What do you think about the parenting space in general in terms of like marketing stuff to parents? Mm-hmm. What is it about that space that maybe is different than marketing things to other people? Are parents easier to reach than normal people because they're just like crazy and they're like, give me anything that helps, I really need, or does that make them harder to reach? Like, what's unique about not just like that audience, because they're also humans, but like speaking to them specifically in a parenting context? And I'm curious how much of that connects to the ask of like, put a kid in that, you know, like, it's just such an interesting space. I'm curious just like what you learned about it as you got more into it.
I mean, my entire career, all the way back until my university days, have been focused on how to get moms to buy things. They have been the purchasing power really since the 70s, when it became clear that they were the ones that were driving a lot of the major purchases. The first agency I worked for in New York was called Womenkind, and it was all about women marketing to women, and that ended up being mothers marketing to mothers. It's interesting. In the influencer content creation space, the parenting industry is where all of the money exists. It's the people who tend to be really the most successful. The only ones who tend to compete with that are like the beauty girlies, because those contracts in the fashion and makeup space are just so phenomenal. But it's wildly competitive. There are so many people who have realized that there's an opportunity to make money there. So the briefs are coming constantly, which means it is definitely easier to make a living as a parenting creator because every brand really wants to go after moms. That also means that the feed is filled with more parenting brand content. And it absolutely means that a majority of the parents that I work with, my colleagues out in the content creation space, notice a decreased reach because there's just like so much more competition of that type of content. I also think when I got into content creation as a working professional, we made content and it got seen by the people who followed us. And now obviously the algorithm plays such a powerful role in whether or not our content gets seen. But more importantly, back then, we weren't always speaking to digital natives, and now everyone is a digital native. And so on the other end is a mom who's like, I know this is an ad. I don't even know if you really believe this, so I have to really kind of dig into it for myself. I'm going to spend more time in your comment section looking at how other parents feel about the product you're speaking about. So there are just so many more layers. It's not enough to be like, hey, moms, you need this because it's cheap and will make your kids feel good. There is so much more that has to kind of be done on our end to convince them to buy something. Yeah, it's incredibly competitive, but the upside is brands really want to reach them. And so if you figure out a way to do it, you will be successful.
So you talked a little bit about kind of like your background starting in advertising. That's where you and I first got to hang out, was in the advertising world as well. What led you into kind of wanting to make the leap into the creator space?
I think like most people, my journey even just to advertising was long and complicated. I was a performer, for 20 years before I stepped foot in an advertising agency.
Don't say we're a performer, Sean. You still are.
Still a performer. Always. I will always be a performer. I went to university for musical theater. I moved to New York to pursue musical theater. And I only started caring about the possibility of working in advertising because I was at university when Facebook was introduced, and then social media becomes a thing. And I actually got an email from my mom that said, hey, the University of New Hampshire has just introduced 2 social media courses. You should take that. And it was one of those interesting moments in life. I'm sure a ton of people are doing this now with AI, where someone gets in your ear and says, this could be the moment. Do you want to get ahead of it? And I thought, yes, I do want to get ahead of it. So when I moved to New York, there weren't there was literally no one in the country, unless you went to Penn State, that had a curriculum that wove social media into advertising or communications or digital media. So when I got to New York and was trying to be a dancer, it felt like the right thing to do to just get a job in social media on the side so I can go to auditions. And right away, that first year, I was working on blogger campaigns, hiring bloggers, paying them nothing, giving them free product. So my relationship with the modern day influencer began 15 years ago on my very first job, probably within a month. And I know I felt that way back then. I thought, I could do that. Like, I see what they're doing. I don't know that I would want to do that, but I feel like I could. I'm a good writer. I have a performance background. Back then it wasn't video content, but still I think I had it in the very back of my head, maybe this is something you want to do. Over the course of my 10-year career, I worked with thousands and thousands of influencers. I negotiated probably hundreds and hundreds of contracts. I wrote them in as a strategist. I hand-selected creators. I had established relationships with influencer management agencies. So by the time it got to like the heyday of content creation, where I was writing checks for crazy money to creators that I felt like weren't actually even hitting the brief. That's the thing for me. I was sitting there looking at the content coming in and going, sorry, did you not see the brief? There were times where the product was held backwards, upside down. Yeah. They pronounced the names wrong. Right. They didn't hit any of the bullet points. And I remember just thinking, what would happen if you got out of your way and took all of your skills and entered the chat room? Like, what would it look like? I bet brands would be really responsive to your approach. And so I started doing it on the side. I would pitch proactively brands at night after I left my advertising job. And I would the question I asked myself is, what do you wish you were receiving in your DMs? What do you wish you were receiving? What content proactively do you wish someone created for you organically that would inspire you to give them a paid opportunity? And then within a year, I was making more money on Instagram than I was as the head of 3 departments. And so I was like, okay, let's give it a shot.
Yeah, there it goes. That's amazing. It's also incredible to think that the time of creators has been around for so long. Like, whether we call it influencers, started with the bloggers, then became the creators. We've been giggling a little bit ourselves because, of course, it's after Cannes. So there's all the, hot takes of this year. And the big one that we keep seeing posted everywhere is that it's the year of creators. And we've been giggling a little bit about it because, of course, everybody knows that creators have been a huge part of the brand economy and advertising economy for some time. But if you had to say why, what makes you think this year is different? Or what do you think has really come to a head in the past couple of years to really make this creator moment even more of a moment than perhaps, 5 or more years ago?
I'm going to give you an exclusive right here on the pod. Next year is also the year of creators, and the year afterwards is too.
But then we're back to normal after that, right?
Then they're all getting canceled. The social media platforms are over. It's interesting because this is undeniably the year of creators more than there ever has been before. I think if you just look at the pure numbers of the creator economy, you're like, okay, well, it's valued at $234 billion. Last year, it was valued at $191 billion. Each year before that, you're seeing a tiny rise. And then this year we see a much bigger one. And the predictions are next year it'll be even bigger. But honestly, The market math is less interesting because it will continue to grow as brands see the value. We know that TV is down. We know that radio is down. We know that newspapers are down. And so naturally that gap needs to be filled, and it's in the digital space. We know that 59% of brands, Nelson just released this data, are going to increase influencer budget. But they said the same thing last year and the year before that. So what actually makes it the year of creator, and why is it being spoken about right now in such a different way? For me, it used to be sentiment. It was like a feeling. Then it became sales, like, no, this is how much money they're making, this is how much we're paying them. And now it's about the structure. That to me feels like the shift that makes people go, wait a second, Edelman just named Kenny Gold the Global Chief Creator Officer? What's that title? And now 3 other agencies are doing the same thing. And Kenny has 200 creator specialists that report to him around the world. Oh, so the agencies that have been helping to make the creator economy a thing, and the brands that are filling the creators' pockets, are now going, we actually need specialists, not at a junior level, not even at a director level, at the highest of levels in our international businesses that are thinking exclusively, not about social media or digital spend, but creator relationships. If you even look at Edelman, just happens to be a good example, but there are brands that have released similar information saying we historically have worked with internationally 2,000 creators a year, maybe even something as high as 5,000 at really big brands. We're looking to expand that pool to 500,000 in 2027, and we want that pool to stretch across the smallest creators and the very largest. Yeah. One of the sentences I heard, and you might have seen it too, it was all over LinkedIn, is we want to have a creator in every state, in every town, in every neighborhood, so that if we needed to, we could reach every single person, no matter what, in every single niche. That's just structurally a huge change from where we've been at before, which is social's important, undeniably. We can track the success of our campaigns. We should use influencers because they're cheaper than agencies. And now the relationship building, the fact that we have to actually establish long-term relationships, and it's not just about handing them a brief. We actually want them to write the briefs. We want to meet with them 2 years in advance so they can help shape the products. That's just an undeniable shift. And then, gosh, I mean, we could all talk for an entire episode about the changes in Hollywood, the streamers, and the fact that all of a sudden, you know, when Mr. Beast has an Amazon Prime show and Miss Rachel has a Netflix show, and you watch Hacks and you're like, influencer. They're not just in Hollywood. Hollywood is becoming creators. And so that probably feels to me like all of that stuff comes together, and you're like, okay, that is structurally a shift in acknowledging that this is much bigger than we've ever felt it was before.
Totally. Absolutely.
So you just kind of sketched out a lot of like, here's the world as I see it. You know, you talked about a few different companies that are already changing how they're approaching it. I think it's probably fair to say that most brands and advertising practitioners don't necessarily see it in the same way. I'm curious, as you come at it from the side of a creator, thinking about here's where we are, here's where I see our value and our power. What is something that you think most marketers are getting wrong with how they approach or work with creators?
When I was on the brand side, I did this. So I just want to like acknowledge that before I say it, because it's so much easier said than done. But brands hire agencies. Agencies have big ideas. The big ideas trickle down to creators in a brief, and then we ask the creators to execute based off that brief. It makes total sense. Like, the concepts have to align to bigger campaigns, which needs to align with all of our digital spend, which absolutely should ladder up to brand positioning. We have to be brand safe. We need to be consistent. Like, it's obviously bigger than just one creator's piece of content. That being said, what hasn't been happening for the tenure of the creator industry, but seems to be happening more and more and more, is brands calling us in and saying, 9, 12 months in advance, we want to start to think about what we're doing for Christmas of 2027. And instead of giving you a brief where we tell you what to do based off of a line or a campaign that the agency created, we're really interested specifically in what a very long-term partnership with you would look like, how you specifically communicate with your audience, and if you're willing to share with us serious insights and truth about how you've been able to drive sales for other businesses, then we can create briefs with you. The creator as a creative director is a thing I'm noticing in my inbox, which is, here's what we want to do, here's what we're attempting to do, but we actually aren't going to dictate the what anymore. We'll tell you the why, and of course we'll send you the products and make sure that you like them, but we know that you're going to be more successful in driving sales for us if you can weave your product into our content, your content, in a very organic and natural way.
Yeah, authenticity, essentially.
Yeah. The creators who are blowing up with their products, you know, Mr. Beast just happens to be a good example, but I guess the Logan brothers are another example with Prime, or one of the Logan brothers with Prime, is they were able to market it in line with the brand that they had established already. And that also meant creative flexibility, the ability to jump on trends within 12 seconds instead of 12 minutes or 12 weeks or 12 months. And so when I get a brief that's like, we want you to say this exact paragraph, I'm like, in 2026? Interesting. Like, I understand, of course I understand the amount of money you've spent on creating a really valuable campaign that's going to stretch across so many touch points, not just creator. And so we're one piece of that puzzle, but I'm still dealing with conflict in going, well, I don't speak that way. I would never say that line. People are going to know that it's an ad if I say it like that. Or I can't actually put your product within the first 1.5 seconds because it doesn't make sense in the narrative structure I've created. And when I say I can get 40 million views on a reel, it wasn't because I was like, this Rode microphone. Right. It was because Rode found itself in the narrative in an authentic way that was like back in the campaign. And I'm not going to lie, like 50% of brands are already there. A lot of the briefs that are hitting my inbox are like, here's what we're hoping for, but we want to hear whatever you think makes sense. Here's the line we need, but it's only 5 words instead of a full paragraph. We're going to give you 4 touch points that are really important to our campaign. Just pick one. And those are the brands that I get excited about, because then I get to create content that aligns with my organic content. And then their campaign gets bigger reach, higher engagement. And then if they decide to turn that into an ad, it's just going to do better for them. But, you know, 50% of the campaigns that hit my desk, I end up having to be like, I actually just can't do this because I am not willing to put something that is so blatantly an ad or something that does not align with the content that I create. And so I think I don't want that to go away. I mean, at the end of the day, we're mini advertising agencies, right? That's what creators are. We're copywriters and a full creative team. And so sometimes you do just need to be able to jump, and you do need to be able to like figure out a way to force something in. And so I imagine 50% of those brands will not change. And then the 50% that have already changed will see interesting, exciting results.
Do you think that's also separating the creator class as well, in terms of like the ones who are willing to play like the multi-roles and dig into the strategy versus the ones who are maybe like more purely there for the ad money, or, you know, to just be a little bit of a walking model, I guess?
I love that question, because it's something that I've been noticing not just in my own world, but probably for the last 9 years of my career. Acquisition of new clients is hard, but not as hard as retaining them. And you both know this as leaders in an agency. You know, how do we keep a client is arguably more important, and sometimes even more exciting, and a feeling of success of retaining a client even through a new business pitch really is an unbelievable feeling. And as a creator, your success long term is about those long term relationships and how do you retain them. And so we already notice a huge class difference amongst creators. The ones that are getting the repeat customers are the ones who are responding with data reports, are the ones who are proactively weaving insights and observations from their channels into their pitches, who are proactively building multi-page presentations, who are thinking of their clients outside of ads, who just happen to like the products and share them organically because it's things they genuinely use now. And so the people capable of that over here often have a marketing background.
Yeah.
So I'm meeting creators who used to be in PR and used to be in communications and used to work at an ad agency who are thinking 10 steps ahead. And as the creator economy becomes more and more popular, it becomes more and more competitive. And so the ones that survive are the ones who absolutely treat it like it is, which is, this is a very serious job. This is real money. These are real clients. And how are you going to win them over? With strategy.
Right. I love that. Strategy. You hear that, Topher?
I
Never
heard
going
it.
Away.
Yeah, speaking of going away, our conversation can go away, but we can move on to more exciting components.
Yes, let's do some games. All right,
Okay.
We're warmed up, so let's do our segment that we call Off Brand, where I'm going to ask 3 creator-related questions connected to our theme.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it. I have a little bit of a funny note when we get to our third one. But for now, we all know that Vine was one of the original short form video platforms. And there was also a massive transition of Vine creators over to YouTube, in the mid 2015s or so. So for this question, who was one of the
Shawn Mendes.
who is one of the long-standing YouTube creators who did not first become famous on Vine? And I can give you a multiple choice if you need it.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to butcher their names. So embarrassing. I realized I didn't look up the phonetics. So Liza Koshy, David Dobrik, King Bach, or Batch,
Yeah.
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast.
Mr. Beast, that's right. Started in YouTube at age 13,
Yes.
if you can believe.
Yes. I knew for a fact the first 2 were Vine because I followed them both on Vine. But the third one, I was like, never heard of him.
Apparently
no,
had the most followers on Vine. He was like the biggest at one point.
Wow.
16.2 million followers.
That's small. Oh, interesting.
I thought that was a crazy number too. I was like 16.2.
That is insane.
It's insane. Okay, amazing. Here we go. Here's the next one. Also can do as a multiple choice if you prefer. Okay, so a fun piece of internet history is that Twitch began as a continuous live stream of its founders' daily life before evolving into the platform we know today. What was the original site called?
Oh. I need multiple choice.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay. Stream Live, Justin.tv, Gamecast, or Live Now?
Justin.tv.
Yeah, I was Justin.
Yeah.
We did a Twitch campaign. Topher and I did a Twitch campaign very early in their infancy. And so I was like, was it in their deck? I was like going back to that meeting, like, can I replicate exactly their pitch?
Yeah. Can I
The
see
story
slide
is so
in my
fun
mind?
about them too. I ended up I did this strategy for their rebrand. And like the entire Twitch world is just like so fascinating from the perspective of moving from something that was live cast, which was kind of a guess about where social and internet and video culture was all going to go. They were like, maybe this is a thing. Like maybe we're all just going to always be streaming ourselves. And the company was basically at bankruptcy. Their whole thing had like almost like they'd fired pretty much. They were like, there's nothing else going on here. The only thing that was really popular was there were people, a lot of them in South Korea, streaming themselves playing Warcraft and StarCraft. And they were like, let's lean into this. Like with our last 3 cents, let's just lean into this a little bit. And that ended up being the thing that blew up.
Wow.
So crazy.
And the fact that we are still talking about live streaming across so many platforms, the fact that it's almost coming back again for like a 4th time in 2026, I'm seeing it in references in briefs where it's like, that live stream feel. Or is that something you would consider doing, is jumping, and with Substack pushing live streaming again? Like the fact that they're sitting in an office going, we're a really big part of this, if not the big it.
Yeah.
Full stop.
So real. Okay, so this is great that I picked a different stat because you already said the 220, the whole like market, total market opportunity for creators. But let's try a slightly different cut of the pie. So approximately how much are U.S. brands projected to spend on creator advertising in 2026?
Okay.
Do you want me to give you a multiple choice?
I have a number in my head.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's just try.
Ooh, yeah, like within, how much are we going to give him? Within 10? Within 5?
Yeah. Within 10.
Within 10, how much?
I feel like I've seen a stat recently that said globally it was 34 billion. And the States arguably makes up such a massive piece of that pie. I really want to be 3 for 3. I'm gonna go with 15 billion.
Okay, amazing. So there's actually 2 ways we can slice this number. So if we slice it directly on what they project brands to pay creators directly for partnerships, it's 21 billion.
Which you nailed. So
Which
we
you
give that
nailed.
one.
Which you nailed. If we think about it in terms of the total advertising ecosystem, so including media dollars to boost creator content, they're thinking it's going to be 44 billion, which is a tripling of what we've seen in the past 3 years. So this kind of furthers some of the points that you mentioned earlier on in our conversation.
I feel like if I could just have 1 billion of it, you know what I mean? Like I'm here.
Not too much to ask.
Yeah.
No, just carve out a little bit for me. I'm available.
It's fascinating to me that of the numbers you named, it's like the creators are getting 21 billion, but there's like another 23 billion that's going to the boosting of what creators are creating. If you think about the way that advertising budgets get split, that is so much more favorable for creators than for advertising agencies. Like, because an advertising agency, if they're like, we're going to spend this much on your content and we're going to spend this much on your media, Facebook, the amount that Facebook is going to see versus the amount that we're going to see from what we're talking powers of 10. You know what I mean? Like, Facebook is going to make so much more money from the campaign that we think of than we are. They're going to make 10 times the amount that we are. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even... And so the fact that creators are earning... because they have the audience and the reach, they are basically on par with the ancillary distribution. That is a really fascinating cut into how new models are working, where the creative component, because it has audience built in, is able to command basically at parity with the additional amount of distribution. That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when that shift began to occur, it was so noticeable in the amount of money that I could bring for my family. It was such a massive shift in going, we're going to pay you X for the creative, and me going, that's how much money I make. That's what I get per reel. And then all of a sudden your manager is saying plus 30% for distribution, plus an additional 15% for that distribution to occur for 30 days. And then all of a sudden, it wasn't like you were getting a little, it was like, oh, across all of your briefs. And then brands coming back and saying, we're going to turn that on again. So we're going to pay you an additional 15%. And then we're going to use it the next year. I mean, that is just absolutely a game changer. And what they don't talk enough about is I get distribution for my channel because you're pushing my ad on your behalf. Like it's showing up as Sean into your feeds and you're paying for it. You're paying for my distribution strategy so more parents find out about me. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a jump ball question because this is just kind of, but like, and I didn't even plan to talk about this, so whatever. If you're like, I don't have an opinion on that, totally fine. I'm actually, because we're talking now about kind of like the creative, and then we're talking about the built-in distribution, and we're talking about the authority and the relevance and the timeliness, like all of these components, right? And we're also talking about this ecosystem overall. We're talking about everything from the brand through to the people who think about the stuff, through to like the people who get it in front of people, through to the people who are actually watching it. And if we're talking about creators, this is kind of spanning across that entire thing. And in some situations, layering on a brand's existing ecosystem. In other situations, we had that story being told that was, we kind of don't really need brands anymore. Like the creator sits across all of this and the creator just is the thing, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Kim Kardashian. That was kind of like the thing that was being told to us in the year of the creator, the last time we were talking about that. But that was like 7 years ago. And so I'm actually like, now that we're talking about it, I didn't think about it until now, but like, if this is the world of the creator, why aren't we talking about creators doing like their own brands again? Why is that not like the number one thing that we're being talked about? Is it because it's just kind of like so much money? Like I don't know. Like what's the reason that in a world where we're talking about creators so much, we're not talking about creator brands?
Yeah. In Australia, they're definitely talking about it a lot because a few of the most successful creators just so happen to have grown a brand that now is a national brand with 14 storefronts or 26 storefronts. And so undeniably, it gets covered a lot. And they're creator-led brands that documented the growth of the business from the very beginning. And so it still feels like that's hovering around. I think the rude reality, I mean, I guess there's two answers to that question. The rude reality of the creator economy is we are at our best when we are just sharing what we actually use. Like it's the book we just read and it just happens to be sitting next to us when we're on camera, or the shirt we really love and we're just wearing it. And most creators who have a chokehold because they have je ne sais quoi are just not creating their own things, even though maybe they should, undeniably, from what we just spoke about. Also, what it financially costs to build a brand is, because I've gone down that path, or I've been offered to go down that path, and then you start to think about all of the financial hardship that will occur in getting that brand up. But what I know to be true is I have seen 3 campaigns out of the US recently where the creator is being brought on as a partner. And I'm like, how interesting. I've seen your content. You did not come up with that. I've seen your content. There's no way you would have been able to execute that shoot. If you're a brand and you're starting, getting a creative partner who comes with a massive distribution arm to come in and be like, what do you think? Pink or pink? What do you think? Do you like the name Poppy or Poppy? And then the creator feels invested in it enough that they want to share it. It feels like the path forward, especially if you're a new business and it's challenging to afford the spend. That's interesting. Why aren't we talking about it more? I feel like we're going to continue to talk about it more.
So are equity asks on the table for you in the future? Are you going to be like, pay me in a share of your company?
Yeah, honestly, I would do it just for that, probably, and not even expect the normal fee if I knew that there was upside potentially. For me, it's about how do you get creators involved in the process from start to finish, the way the great brands, the Kim Kardashians, who share like almost every step of the journey. There's a girl here in Australia named Brittany Saunders, and she just started on YouTube when she was 13, like Mr. Beast. And when she started her product, it was like every detail, every meeting, every concept, every failed opportunity we had access to. And it was so exciting to go along for that ride. And so if you're the brand, how early can you get the creator in so they feel undeniably invested in it, and it doesn't feel like they're just being hired for their reach. But yeah, if you're offering that, I'd probably jump.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. Another Strange Coordinates or Stranger Coordinates exclusive.
Yeah.
It does also feel like the celebrity alcohol brands that came to mind. You know, like everybody has a tequila or whatever. And I do think that there's great global examples of creators with brands. She was like one of the OG blogger influencers, Chiara, in Italy. And her whole thing was she started her brand, and must have been like over a decade ago. And now she has like, similar to what you were describing with the Australian influencer, of like physical stores. She used to document all of her like design meetings and things like that. And now I think the company employs like hundreds of people. So it's weird that we don't have as great of US examples, but I do feel like they definitely exist globally.
Yeah. For me, I'm sure you both feel the same way, just if you live on the internet. It's really frustrating when a creator comes out with a product that doesn't align with who they are. And you're like I've never seen you wear a hat. What? Ever. And now you have a hat brand? Or like you've never once shown us you getting into bed and now you have a pajama line?
Yeah.
It's the creators who you're always wearing a pink Argyle sweater in every video, and now you have your own, where it's like, that makes perfect sense. The creators who the Kylie cosmetic, it's like, we actually can't stop talking about your face. We can't stop talking about your lips. Oh, you're going to sell lip kits.
Yeah.
Okay. That's authority. That's like brand alignment. That's brand positioning. That's strategy. And it's like, I feel like once a month I see a creator selling something that they've made, and I would say 10% of the time I'm like, that makes perfect sense for you. So are we just jumping on opportunities because they're falling in our lap? Are we creating something because we want to be the next big brand? Or are we looking at the brand we've already established and figuring out how a product extension makes perfect sense?
And now, because I like the symmetry of ending every piece of our conversation by saying that strategy, I'm going to lean forward, transitioning us into our third component. It is we're talking about a segment called Omnipotent Brand Manager. Aydan and I have obviously been putting you on blast. You have been answering and dancing to the beat of our drums. The time is for you to switch it up. Omnipotent Brand Manager is where you imagine that you have been promoted to the most powerful brand manager in the history of creation for the span of a single project. You can do anything. What brand would you work with and why? What would you accomplish with them?
Patagonia, so I could fire the market. No, I'm kidding.
Girl, don't get me started. We do not have the time. We do not have the time.
That was just a joke.
Oh my God. We need a whole nother episode. And it's just me yelling at my computer. Like, it's just, all right. Back to you. I promised you I would.
I knew what I was doing there.
It's unfair.
I got to make this as entertaining as possible. No, but actually, let's just make that the answer then, because this is really interesting for me, and Topher and I have spoken about this offline. I always want the opportunity to work with a brand that is dealing with controversy. My whole career has been about crisis management. I worked under Topher, and crisis management was like a foundational principle of the 3 brands I worked on, because all 3 exploded in front of our face. I think a brand manager who is higher than any brand manager in the world understands that with unbelievable strategy a brand in crisis can explode and bring entire chunks of new audiences in and get beautiful free media in such a powerful way. And in many ways, it all comes down to empathy and sympathy for the customer, a deep rooted concern for their concerns. And it doesn't always happen. And as someone who's worked in public relations and in social media and as a brand strategist, I look at what happened with Patagonia and I think, if I was just on that team, I don't even need any money. You don't have to give me any money, but I really believe the opportunity is it's a brand everyone knows, everyone respects, and everyone goes out and buys it because they handled this problem and this crisis with care. I would walk in immediately and carve out an entire chunk of people. Goodbye. No jobs anymore. I'm so sorry that you've made this poor decision. Slice, 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 out. I'm going down and sitting with Patagonia, the drag queen, because I'm guessing a lot of people who are listening don't.
Yeah,
do you want to
Yeah.
back out? But I like that we started with firing a bunch of people because I'm very aligned with that. But why don't you back out and just give us sort of like your play from your perspective? Okay, you don't have to give the whole walkthrough, but just kind of like what's the crisis that you see? What's the opportunity? And then dive into how you would handle it.
So there is a drag queen, a content creator who creates unbelievable content on the internet. It's less a drag account, even though he's always in drag, and more of an advocacy account. Someone who cares about the planet, cares about people, cares about the future of people on this planet, and raises millions and millions of dollars in a given year by going on hikes, by doing concerts, performances.
By selling merch.
Who just cares? By selling merch. That's a really good segue. So in the drag space.
And this performer's name is Patagonia.
Patagonia.
Yeah.
This is not a new idea, right? There is a drag queen in New York called Jan Sport.
Trixie Mattel.
Trixie Mattel, they absolutely purposely play on that brand space. So there's a brand like Jan Sport that partners with the drag queen, has them design an entire fashion label, gives them as much money as possible so that they promote the clothes they design together, who brings the drag queen in and says, could we sue you? Maybe. But that would be obviously so heartless. And if you anger the gays, does your brand even have a future? And then you have Patagonia suing Patagonia. I mean, I guess I don't even know the exact thing they're being sued for, but obviously for like using the name, and they're selling, Patagonia is currently selling merch. And Patagonia is going all in and doubling down and making it worse at every touch point with communication that makes them seem heartless, lacking empathy, but more importantly, lacking an understanding of what's possible when a brand partners with a creator who has a chokehold on culture in any given moment. It feels to me, it like reminds me a little bit of like I can't think of an example right now, maybe a Chick-fil-A where it's like they have heat and then they just like double down and it's like, we don't care. And we're going to keep doing this. And we really believe that we're doing something right. So if I'm the brand manager, besides like carving out an entire chunk of people where I'm like, this was a huge mistake, you're all fired. And maybe that's at the very, very top. I'm also really interested in going, we have a brand that actually is special, or I thought it was special when I was growing up. I'm from New England and Patagonia has a chokehold there as far as what people wear, and going, how can we take this person in who's undeniably special and has great connection, and how can we work together? What does a fashion label partnership look like? And what are you passionate about, Patagonia? What brands, what initiatives matter to you? How can this partnership raise a bunch of money? You're allowed to, as a brand, say, we made a huge mistake. This was a mistake. We're going to drop the lawsuit. But that's not enough. You can't drop it. You have to then go, and here's what we have to do next to make sure that all of you who are fans of Patagonia, millions of people follow Patagonia across platforms. How are you going to make sure that they want to ever buy our product again or think that we're a decent decent brand. So that to me, actually, even though it started as a joke, I would love to work on that. I'd love to work on it with both of you. Like that to me feels like a great challenge worthy of my time. I do it pro bono.
Yeah.
All right. So Sean has put himself up for multiple jobs on this podcast. And if anybody's listening, let's get this girl working. She's not working hard enough already.
I need a job.
I love it. I mean, to me, the Patagonia situation is so rife with hubris, and it extends from the brand to some aspects of how Patagonia herself handled the campaign. And it also then, it extended into this world that I didn't expect, which was a huge amount of people who, in a world where and you know this more than anybody, having a perspective on something in the world of the social economy, where the point is, you listen to me, there is this incentive to be like, well, have you thought of this? There's a contrarian incentive. And I saw so many queer creators 2 weeks after, 3 days after, be like, one of the things that a lot of you don't understand is that I did a little bit of research into copyright law, and Patagonia is actually in the wrong. I saw so many people basically become would I be, this is me being would I ever work with Patagonia? I don't think I would. I think I would struggle to work with a company that I think has just wiped their own ass with their principles in such a public way. I think it's disgraceful and it's disgusting. I found it so revolting that I took all of the Patagonia patches off my own Patagonia clothes and I donated them, because not only do I not want to wear them, I don't want to throw them away. They are perfectly good clothing things, but they are not going to be able to represent that brand anymore because I find it absolutely abhorrent. That said, for somebody to be like, oh, the poor Patagonia, they were at risk of a queer creator creating market confusion about whether or not this merch was out there, and I'm gonna style myself as a trademark law person, and everybody being thanks for providing an additional perspective. It feeds into this larger thing, which is just that actually the reason why people love Patagonia is because they want to be able to feel if I use these dollars, I don't have to feel guilty anymore. And so Patagonia and Patagonia actually ended up in spaces where Patagonia originally was making the hardest ask, which was you actually need to bring your own values into a space where you might not get everything you want. And Patagonia was like, no, you don't. Because the world is made for rich people to use the court systems to their advantage. And our job is to continue to make money, to make you feel better. It's mostly to make the world better, but it's, it's just it felt so disingenuous and gross that by the end of it, I was absolutely sickened by the whole thing, because the problem is you can't buy your way out of the ills of capitalism. There needs to be a balancing effect. And Patagonia ended up being the one that was you have to make a hard decision right now and kind of look at this for-profit corporation and ask whether they're living the values that you think they should be living. And if so, then you should probably stop wearing your trendy little clothes that you like. And people in the end were like, you know what? I'd rather nitpick about copyright law that I deeply don't understand, and back a corporation over a queer creator on Pride Month.
On Pride Month. I think the timing for me, because I'm the brand manager of all brand managers working for this business, this never would have happened anyways.
I'm so glad you were in this position, Sean, and you averted this disaster. I could not be more happy that you were omnipotent brand manager at the right time. And you saved a company that I care a lot about and a drag queen that I care a lot about at the same time. Thank you, Sean.
Right? You're welcome. You're welcome. I honestly think as a brand manager, one of your most important, probably arguably one of the most important things that you do on any given week is to just look at what's happening in the world. What's happening in the world? What's happening in culture? What are people talking about? What do they care about? Obviously, it's not everyone. Sometimes it's niching down to specific substance. But the moment that a creator surpasses 1 million followers on any platform, and that creator cares about your brand or has a version of your brand as their namesake, is the moment you're already meeting and doing a collaboration with them that aligns with their values and yours. So we are years late to the party. Patagonia did not just blow up this year.
Yeah.
Topher and I have been following her for years, right? Like
Yeah.
the great work of her, I'm walking across wherever, the entire United States, and I'm raising millions of dollars. That is the time. That was the moment.
Yeah.
Where Patagonia goes, hey, we want you to wear head to toe. We want to make custom dresses for you. We don't even offer drag wigs. We do now. Like, girl, figure it out.
Extra fleece
So it's
over.
just, I'm angrier about that. I'm angrier about the missed opportunities. I'm angry about the missed opportunity to connect with a huge queer audience, and not just any queer audience, a queer audience with a values pulse that runs through. That's why you're not following Patagonia for the death drops.
No.
You're following Patagonia because she cares about our planet. And so
and she needs she could use a little wig help every now and then. I mean, girl, I want to see like a sustainable wig made out of like discarded coconut fibers that like would have gone into, that would be incredible.
Exactly. There are big opportunities here, especially in like, we don't have to pretend anymore that drag is not a microscope that the entire world is looking at and has been looking at for 10 years. And also that it sits separate to just the queer community. It's like a genuine art form. It's not like gay people only are watching that show or following drag queens. That's not true. And it hasn't been true for a really long time. In fact, a majority of the audience are girls sitting at home being like, dancers, artists, wig makers, makeup artists. It stretches across so many categories that as a brand manager, you can't go, that's a gay problem. Because when you do, it goes, we're homophobic. And it doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Instead of it going, this is a values-aligned opportunity. And I think if we all go back a couple of years and I said, name a couple words about Patagonia, I think you probably would have said, they care about the earth.
Yep.
They have a mountain, right? Like, you just make that leap. So the values, like, hello. I want to be the brand manager. Hire me now. How fun.
Yeah. Completely. I'm so glad we walked down this path.
Me too. Thank you, Topher.
Yeah. We learned a lot today. We went down many different paths, everywhere from talking about Patagonia and Patagonia to Australia, the shores of Italy, and talking about creators all over the world and how much the creator economy is changing and how worthwhile it is for brands to invest. Sean, it's been really, really wonderful having you chat with us today and yesterday. Where should folks go to learn more about your work or see more of your channels?
If you're not following me on Instagram, SeanSzeps, you're only getting half of the story.
Not even half. You're getting
not even half. You're getting no story. You're getting nothing. Yeah. You're only getting this part of the story. That's where it's all at. There are other platforms, but Instagram is where it's happening.
And Zed, translate that for us.
Oh, sorry, Z.
He's gone native.
It's in the show notes.
He's gone native Australian.
Yeah. G'day, mate. Follow me on SeanSzeps.com, and I'm going to hop on a kangaroo.
Tweedledee-dee. Thank you, everybody else, for listening. To learn more about Territorial and how we help brands find their place in the world, go to our website. That is www.weareterritorial.com. And when you're there, subscribe to our mailing list. That's where you send out notices about new work, cool stuff going on. and you get half the story there as well. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.